Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is Paper Roll. In today's video we will be talking about a complete guide to both survivability and damage or CC combos and all offense style about Druid roaming. I am a solo roamer, so I can fight 1v1s and outnumbered all the time, and this is a complete guide for it. I already released my build, my main build, which I call the Ultimate Druid Leader, and also I released a hybrid one. I will assume you watched that video because we're not going to be repeating all the information about it, and then you come back and watch this one. If you watched the other one, it's fine. If you didn't, go watch it first. You can find the link in the description and it will appeal to the top corner of your screen, right corner on the cards. Now also we're going to be having timestamps and we're going to be talking about everything with few tips and tricks, everything about Druid in this fall guide. Now without further ado, let's get right into it. So we will start with the damage or the offense part. There is a thing you need to understand about condition builds in general first, since this is a condition healing mix build, which basically a condition build. So unlike bar builds, if you lock your enemy in a CC, you burst them, they are downed. If they don't have any defenses, they can dodge, they didn't line sight you, and your damage is big enough, even without a CC, they are downed. For condition builds, even if you land everything perfectly, even if you land your entire burst, you CC chain them, if they have a condition cleanse and can use it, all this burst didn't happen. So even so, all things work the same. If enemy block my hits will not land the condition same. If they can dodge my entangle, the entangle will not land on them. However, there is an extra layer of defense against condition, which is basically, even if everything landed, if the burst landed, your enemy is not down, the fight is not over, they can simply cleanse and reset the whole fight. Which mean a very valuable or the most valuable cooldown in a fight against condition is condition cleanses. So the best thing you try to force your enemy to use and put on cooldown is their condition cleanse. Once they are out of condition cleanses, you can actually kill them. Even if they have stun breaks, it doesn't mean this much, especially for a druid who can actually immobilize or make enemies stuck in other methods of control even. So stun breaks will not save them if they don't have any condition cleanse left. And for that, also it creates another problem. If you unload all your burst, let's take for example a second soul beast, one wolf pack, rapid fire, smoke skill F2, follows CC F1 and Maul, Great Sword 5, Maul, you know how it works. Your enemy is dead, it's over. You spam your skills and if your enemy couldn't really survive them, it's over. But for a condition build, you spam your skills, your enemy cleans it. So you have to split it. You can't spam your skills and land everything, because even if you land it perfectly, your enemy will still survive it. Which why we run multiple sources of damage. Let's say if I was running this build with a protect me and I want more stun breaks, for example, so I'm running Quickening Zephyr and let's have even more stability, Glyph of the Stars. If I land my short bow skills and even do some damage from Sissy Avatar, finally my damage is big enough, enemy have to cleanse it, so they will cleanse. I have nothing. And we keep repeating this cycle. Once I do some enough damage on them to actually start burning through their health, they will cleanse it. That's besides they're able to trade bunches with me, CC me, and I now stun break, I need to kite, so you have down times in the fight when you don't apply damage. So this build would be obviously stupid. And that's why we have multiple layers of damage. We have our short bow, we have utility skills to apply damage, entangle, sharpen stone, even the glyph, bits to help us with it, Celestia Avatar can do damage because of the traits, Eclipse, and our main condition come from Eclipse and Blood Moon. We even have increased bleeding duration, we support our short bow, so we have multiple layers of things can keep our damage going in motion, in sequence. Once you use something, you have another thing. So not only you can space your damage, we already have multiple layers of it, and that's how you make a good build. So usually you will find me starting with short bow obviously and sharpen stone, because sharpen stone have a 30-second cooldown and a 30-second application. So the fight didn't start even, I'm gonna duel someone or whatever, I'm still having sharpen stone. The moment the fight starts, I can use it. It's a precast. Or even if you're chasing someone, you will find me spam it off cooldown. Even when I'm standing capturing something, no one even finding me, you will find me use it off cooldown. Why? Because now I can apply insane amount of bleed on you and in few seconds I will have it again. I will not need it for condition cleanse, I will not need it for damage, I already applied it, so it's smart to apply it all the time. and many skills I have that will cleanse cooldown. Even one of them is a stun break, so I will always can survive normally. So that is a smart idea. So short bow mixed to sharpened stone can already apply enough decent pressure to be very annoying. After that I'll probably follow with Celestia Avatar just for the little pressure to also trigger my sigils. I run Sigil of Doom and Geomancy in short bow, so entering Celestia Avatar will trigger those sigils on the people around me to get damage. It will trigger the days from Blood Moon, which mean a stack of bleeding from Blood Moon, and you can start doing damage from the skills inside Celestia Avatar itself. And after that you can also switch bit, CC your enemy by boiling them, maybe entangling them, enter Celestia Avatar again to apply more damage. We will explain it in the CC combo or how to actually use your skill. But this is basically the idea of splitting your burst. Now let's get to how actually you can do a perfect CC combo, which is a stun lock, a CC chain that will not leave your enemy a window to do anything. So before I explain this, I need to talk again about what I meant by the wrong design of Druid right now. We used to have Ancient Seed, which means every 10 seconds, one CC on multiple enemies, a single hit on them will trigger Ancient Seed on all of them. So you can trigger it on a single enemy or many. Simply entering Celestia Avatar and casting skill 3 and the first attack of 5, it's over. Everyone around you have Ancient Seed on them, which was damage and control and everything. It worked for your survivability and damage and stuff. However, right now we can't lock people next to us this easily. While in Celestial Avatar, skill 5, which is the biggest damage we have, actually require 2.5 second cast time, while it take a pre-cast time after entering Celestial Avatar. It doesn't start immediately. If you're spamming the two buttons at the same time, it will not happen. So it will need like around extra half a second. And eventually, after bolting all those conditions and burning every time, in the last bolts, it's more damage, more burning, but will start an effect on everyone who's inside the radius called Black Hole. Black Hole will start immobilizing after the initial appearance. So it ends up being 4 immobilization stack, not 5. Every one of them, every stack of them will trigger a single stack of Blood Moon. But also that means even after you finish casting it, there is a delay, very small delay, when enemy can still move. So if enemy started moving before it even happened, it will not land inside the Blood Moon, the Black Hole, which means you need about 3.5 seconds actually to land the skill safely, when your enemy can simply walk away from you. And I find a lot of players, even some top streamers actually, fall for this trick. They would wail on you inside Celestial Avatar instead of simply avoiding you while you're stuck in place because you can't move while casting this skill, and they end up eating the damage from it. Don't. Just move away. There's nothing a Druid can do to you. All what he have inside Celestial Avatar is a skill 3 and skill 2, and they are barely damage. This one is decent, will do 2 stacks of Blood Moon because of an immobilize and a daze, but that's tiny amount of bleeding. It's not that big. And the other one was blinding and poison. It's almost irrelevant. So we have no way to land skill 5 normally. We can't simply land the skills 3 and 5 and the enemy is immobilized and stuck. No, skill 3 will give you 1 second of immobilize, and depending on your condition duration you can increase it, but it will never reach 3.5 the amount you have or you want. So the ways in my build, in different builds you can have multiple other ways. If you use Yakaranda, for example, you can root a single enemy and land skill 5 on them. However, in my build I use Iboga and Entangle. They are the only way to lock the enemy inside my skill. So I can be casting skill 5 and ball the enemy toward me with Iboga's ball, and they will land inside it. They will be balled from a big distance. They are CC'd, they can't control their characters or the avatar, they land in it, they eat the immobilize after the ball from Iboga. There's no way they can avoid skill 5, they will land in it. They didn't have stability. Obviously always watch if your enemy has stability or stuff like that, because it will not work. So you ball them inside the skill and it will land, and you keep bursting them. The other one is landing Entangle, whether outside or inside the avatar, because the immobilize is too long. Every single balls will give you more than 2 seconds, so it will cap the maximum duration of immobilize, which is 10 seconds, very easy. If you use it even outside of the avatar, it's more advantageous. Immobilize in Guild Wars 2 will make your character unable to move, unable to dodge, and even unable to turn, which means you can flank them and you can daze them. So enter necessity avatar will apply daze to everyone around you. Immobilize, remember, you can't move, you can't dodge. Daze, you can't use a skill, but you can't move and you can dodge. But combine both of them, it's basically a stun. When you can't move, dodge, use skill, anything, you're stuck in place, you can't do anything. So it's even more advantageous if you do it this way. So for my burst combo, it always will start on Iboga, so we can ball the enemy next to us, so we can make sure the enemy will land in our skill 5 for CST avatar, while also Iboga covering them with confusion, torment, and making it harder for them to cleanse all this amount of cover condition we can apply to them. So you either switch to it or switch or start on it. You either start the CC on it or switch to it from the turtle. After that, you will have to check your enemy for the CC. So before the days end, you apply another daze, or immediately. And the other stun end, you apply another daze. Because dazes will overwrite each other, so don't spam them. Wait before one ends, like this one is for 2 seconds. So don't use it and immediately use skill 5 if possible. Every one of them take 2 seconds, so count a little bit more than a second and then use the other one. A little bit more, and this is how it goes. And you can even wait more than the 2 seconds if your enemy will start casting a long skill, like a necromancer trying to cast consume condition, so you can even interrupt it and make it even more annoying. So you follow with a CC after a CC, and you can chain your condition damage like that. And you can switch your bit, like you'd say you started on Iboga, so you can switch from Iboga to the turtle, to use hunker down to shield yourself from melee hits, to also trigger stability from shared anguish. This trait so your enemy can CC you and stop you from continuing with this CC chain. And the other bit will always follow with its CC. So sometimes I would do the opposite. I will start, like we said, it will always start on Iboga, but let's say I was first, before I start my combo, I was in turtle, and my enemy was stuck here or trying to hit me in melee, and turtle used slam. So the enemy got CC'd. I can immediately daze them while entering CC avatar, switch to Iboga, and then ball them, so the enemy moved from CC to another starting with turtle. If I was on Iboga, I can switch from it to turtle and wait with the enemies immobilized right next to it for Iboga to also use a slam and CC them again. So I also utilize the turtle like that. So let's look at an example on how this will actually look. Because I will always try to ball the enemy inside my skill, I don't want the enemy to interrupt me or try to control me inside CC avatar, so I start with skill 5 immediately to trigger the first balls and gain 2 stacks of stability and apply my damage as fast as possible. So let's say we start on Iboga, so I will be hitting the enemy, something like that. Let's go something we actually can see the days on or stuff like that. And simply enter CC avatar, skill 5, 2, and ball the enemy in it, and now the ages, skill 4, used again, and I get out, daze, and maybe goes roots, and daze again, stuff like that, and keep rotating. And like we said, you can also move to turtle if you need it to shield yourself, give yourself stability, even heal under it using hunker down to gain protection and just go through this motion. And also saving your Iboga from dying and causing yourself another problem. So let's look at it again on something that actually can survive. You'll be hitting this thing, I stun them or whatever, I go inside, 5, 2, ball, switch, heal under them, daze again, more condition, more cover, and we go. So this is the basic combo. Few hits, already covering enemy with condition, finding the right moment to use it until their stability move or something like that. Enter CST avatar, skill 5, 2, while Iboga is bowling into them, skill 3, 4, and then 2, which is the normal rotation of CST avatars that I already explained in the build video. Switching bits to gain stability, hopefully will trigger another CC at some point, leaving CST avatar to trigger whatever you could have with other skill 5 while triggering some other damage like skill 2 or whatever, or glyph equality to lock them all if it's possible, trigger ancient seed if you can still lock them, you can heal under them for slow, more immobilize, and you go. And also remember that switching inside CST avatar and out for your short bow will trigger also the sigil for more poison, more bleeding, and you go. Now let's go with the survival part. So if you think Druid damage got hindered a bit because of the bad design, like I said for CC Avatar 5, you're right. However, if you can land it, your damage is quite decent. You have almost the same damage output, you have maybe a bit better cover, more difficult time in actually landing it, but the damage is fine. If they can fix this wrong design, the damage is absolutely fine, there is no problem. It is the same, whether if you thought Druid is weak, at least you will find now some cover condition. If you thought Druid was strong, well, maybe you think it's stronger. But as of right now, with this design to Celestia Avatar 5, it is a little bit bad, but it works. It's not really the end of the world, it's not a problem. However, survivability tanked a little bit more. But we can also go around it and find ways to fix it. The same way we use our bit or our roots to make sure we land our Celestia Avatar skill and stuff, we can find solutions to survivability. So what do I mean by survivability made it actually struggled worse? A huge part of survivability on Druid is actually kiting distance movement. You create distance with people and you heal yourself. Druid is quite squishy. In general, comparing to other casts, comparing to playing Untamed, it's really tanky, or Soul Beast, when cannot be stopped, cannot be hit, it's crazy. Like Dual Stance, you can't lock them, they lower your damage and they can just move on and do their own burst. So Druid is quite squishy. You only have healing and movement. There's no barriers, there's no blocks, there's no extra anything, there's no invulnerability, there's no ages, there's nothing. You simply take the hits or avoid them, and if you take them, you heal them. Which means the survivability got a problem because we can't control the distance against our enemy as we used to. Simply enter Celestia Avatar, skill 3, and a single attack for skill 5, everyone around you is rooted. Ancient Seed, on 10-second cooldown. Ancient Seed got removed, so you can't do that, and everyone immobilized and you can walk away. They have to waste a cleanse to try to follow you. You can immobilize them again. Will they cleanse it again? You can root them this time. Will they cleanse it again? You can heal. If someone cleaving your melee, they will get immobilized and crippled. So you would be able to control the distance of your enemy because you almost can control their position. When you switch bits and they are following you here, your bit can pull them toward it and create a more distance. Multiple layers. You right now lost the biggest one of them, which is Ancient Seed, which means you only can immobilize them with staff, bull them, and the only advantage you got is having immobilize on this skill. A very tiny immobilize that you can do from far, even behind you if you're running away, something like that. But you lost Ancient Seed, which means most of the time your enemy will be able to catch you. Not only that, we used to trigger only one hit on skill 5. We are a condition build, so skill 5 on Celestia Avatar, Natural Conversion, was a waste of time to fully cast. You want the stability and the initial hit that will immobilize everyone from Ancient Seed. Right now you want to cast the whole thing. You want the Black Hole effect for 4 stacks on everyone from Blood Moon. You want the burning duration or damage from the last one. You want this damage. You get might and everything. And not only that, you want to land other skills, maybe more might and chill on everyone around you. Maybe you can wait for another Lunar Impact or Seed of Life. Depending on the situation, you spend more time inside Celestia Avatar, which means Celestia Avatar take longer time to fill, and also mean you spend more time next to your enemy. Natural Conversion will finish its efficiency from all its damage or whatever in more than 3 seconds instead of was only initial cast, one hit. Now you stand for more than 3 seconds next to your enemy, you can't move, you can't do anything, and they are hitting you. In outnumber situation, this could be the end of the fight. 3 seconds is more than enough for 4 players to kill you, especially while you're doing nothing next to them. You're not blocking, not dodging, not anything, you're trying to apply your damage. So you end up being next to your enemy more than you used to, and your enemy can actually hunt you to be next to you more than he used to. And that made survivability is a bit worse. So how we survive after keeping that in mind? First of all, the best solution to this problem, after using every tool you have to control your enemy's position or whatever you have left, and even the things you got now, you also need to create more distance from you and your enemy. if you can't keep your enemy stuck behind you and prevent them from hunting you, you create this lapse in their movement when they can't move, and then cleanse and then move, and then you immobilize them again, so they cleanse and then move. Because you can't do that anymore, you need to simply create a bigger distance from the start. So you would find me before the change to Druid, I would normally stay in this distance, like 900 or whatever, and then start kiting or something like that if I need to. If my enemy got close, like they are standing here and outnumbered, I can immobilize them all even right next to me and then start moving. So I didn't care even if the enemy got this close to me, because I can then start creating distance. However, right now in outnumbered situation, you do your burst, create an outer, like let's say I triggered some blinding or whatever and then had to move immediately, so I immobilize them all and then change direction and I move. Immediately I start moving and creating distance. And if there are multiple players, I don't even get next to them. So if you're not really that familiar with Druid, one of the easiest way to pay attention to this is almost never try to land skill 5 fully inside many prayers unless you know that at least one of them will eat full of it and the other are not trying to burst you. Like you're not being second one wolf back from a soul beast while trying to cleave a down player, for example. No, because the soul beast will get you down at this point. But if the soul beast is dazed, like you use the glyph equality and then you enter CC avatar to stop them so they are not really bursting, or you have hunker down to stop their projectile, then use it, even if you have like 2 players next to you. So it's an easy way to keep in mind. However, the idea is to keep bigger distance, especially in outnumbered fights. I see 3 players here, I'm still kiting. From all this distance? Yes, from all this distance. This was the main way to survive right now. It's you create more distance, you be more on your feet. Now let's talk about how we survive using our skills and everything besides this problem that we went through. So there is what I used to call the rule of 3. And right now it's a bit more complicated. It still exists, but it's quite more spread in the Druid. Which the idea was Healing Spring, Celestial Avatar, and Staff never have the 3 of them on cooldown at any time. Only 2 at maximum, if possible. Unless you're trying to survive 5 or 6 people trying to kite Zerg or whatever, then I guess fine. If you're gonna die anyway, you have to use it. But if you're basing your skills right, try to not use all of them. What do I mean? It changed a bit. For a start, if you can create really big distances between you and people like that, it can allow you easier survivability only through the distance, not the skills. So let's say I had to heal or use CC avatar to stealth, I can immediately go to staff and start kiting. The distance would be too big and I already kiting. I can probably break combat or already start gaining new cooldowns, like my skill already go off cooldown, my CC avatar get back or something like that, before they can catch to me. So it's still obviously advised to follow this same rule if possible, but it is a little bit more loose. However, there is something else that we joined, which is Light Reflex. Light Reflex, because if we use Antitoxin, can cleanse up to 5 conditions. It is almost a moment of immunity unless you're in a Fear Ring or Longbow 5 for Dragon Hunter or Dragon Maw, because you don't have stability, you can't dodge out of it. So the Light Reflex can be quite the problem. However, in most cases, in most scenario, it is Vigor, Condition Cleanse for up to 5 condition cleanses, a short cooldown, so also don't use it recklessly. It can save your life with a single one skill. So let's say you use it, you heal, and you can simply start kiting. This is already enough survivability to get you out of other situation without resorting to CC Avatar or the staff. CC Avatar got also nerfed because our survivability is struggling even more now because we can't run Druid Clarity. We have to run Blood Moon. So even though CC Avatar is no longer, the moment you enter, you cleanse your conditions and you can kite even more and cleanse more. No, you enter, you still have this immobilize and poison and whatever in you and the blind, but you can still cleanse inside it and land your own immobilize and poison on enemy. Skill 2 in CC Avatar will always cleanse you first, trigger Antitoxin to cleanse for 3. If you blast in it, it's a light field, so if you use skill 3 inside it, it will cleanse 1 and trigger Antitoxin, so another 1, that's for a total of 5 condition cleanses. And since it will cleanse your blind first, that means always your blind and poison will land on a melee combat to anyone who's trying to cleave you. So it's a very good survivability trick to keep in mind. So Celestial Avatar is still quite oppressive. Entering will daze anyone that's trying to cleave you. So it already will interrupt your enemy. A good offense is a really good defense. So entering, that means everyone around you is dazed, so you at least got a breathing room for 1 second. Let's say you cleansed yourself like that, cleansed a lot of condition, dazed them again, immobilized them even for a second, applied your own damage, blind and immobilize, and you can start kiting. So that's why Celestial Avatar is still quite strong for survivability as it is for damage. And your staff, we run Sigil of Cleansing and Energy on staff, which means the moment you move to staff, you cleanse 3 condition, triggering anti-toxin. That means 4 condition cleanse, and you gain a single dodge. So let's say I was on short bow. I do that, I cleansed 4 condition, and I gain a full dodge bar, so I can dodge the burst that enemy was trying to hit me with, and can simply start kiting immediately. You also have a projectile field, healing, regeneration. You can use this skill on your enemy or on your bit or another ally to start healing everyone here, or even immobilize them behind you to make it even more difficult for them to follow you. So staff is incredibly capable of getting you out of difficult situations as Celestial Avatar. And for healing trap, the moment you trigger the trap itself, it will cleanse every 2 seconds 2 condition with anti-toxins at 3 for you and your bit, creating a water field if you blast in it from Celestial Avatar or from staff. That's why most of the time you will find us use 2 together, like staff with healing trap, Celestial Avatar with healing trap, something like that. And even with hunker down to your bit inside it, you will be gaining protection, regeneration, you're stopping projectile attacks and stuff like that. So that is the main concept of survivability. The rule of 3 as we explained it, and the movement. You create bigger distances with your enemy right now, and space all your survivability. So this is a rule for any build. It has nothing to do with Druid. Never use all your stun breaks or all your defenses against CC. CC is, or crowd control, is the biggest impactful thing you can do to enemy. Once your enemy lock you down, they can do anything. They can apply all their bursts, everyone just jumping in, and you're dead. You can't move, you can't do anything. So you always have to have answers. That's why we have stun breaks. It's a great thing we have in Guild Wars 2, that we don't have CC lock. If you have a stun break, you break the whole cycle. So that's why we run 2 stun breaks here, and we also have 2 sources of stability. If you switch bit inside combat, you get 1 stack of stability to you and your bit from trait Shared Anguish, and the first balls on Celestial Avatar 5 will give you 2 stacks of stability, and this is Shared Anguish trait. So never be empty of all of them, or at least never use the 2 stun breaks while you're stuck in combat and you're gonna get CC and die. If you had to use lightning reflexes, for example, don't be tempted to use Glyph of Equality aggressively to CC your enemy or interrupt it and now you have nothing. And especially you make it worse if you were just swiped your bit from like 5 seconds ago and have like 15-second cooldown or whatever. So don't burn all your stun breaks, space them. Always keep a stun break ready, always keep a condition cleanse ready. Don't burn through your skills as fast as possible. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about some tips and tricks about survivability and damage. One of them, since we are using Turtle have quite the problem that we can use to our advantage. The moment Turtle start attacking an enemy, it never go to them, so it will never trigger its other skills or whatever, which mean we always know that it will be here, which mean we can use that to our advantage by simply body blocking projectile. For example, if you stand behind her, even without hunker down, if you're fighting, let's say, a ranger with non-piercing projectile, which most longbow users, for example, do that, she will eat the hits and they will not land into you. So that is a very smart idea. The second idea is keeping your turtle next to you can trigger her other skills because she will trigger them on melee. So it's a good idea to always micromanage it, like calling her to you, and once you're next the enemy you're trying to hit, now order her to attack, using return to me and attack my target. So she will trigger snap, and as you see now, she triggered slam. How to do that is to always make her follow you, like that, make her follow you, and the moment you cross the enemy, she will be going in a direct line, and you would order her to attack. Order her again, order her to attack. So you would control where she stands from the enemy. This micromanagement can always help you land SCC and control its position. Besides, if you keep calling her to you like that, you will be able to apply the barrier whenever you want it. Let's say you're being bombarded from behind, you apply this barrier and all the projectiles will be stopped right now, or even onto you. So micromanage the turtle by pulling her to you and keeping her close and between return to me and attack my target to trigger the other skill. Keep her stationary if you want to use her as a body block also works. Now another trick for survivability. Druid require a lot of micromanagement now, it's not that easy to play. So for example, if you stealth yourself with Celestial Shadows, both you and your bit will stealth, which is great if your bit next to you, your boss can be running away now. But if your bit was a bit far, let's say Turtle, because she is stationary, for example, let's say she was far, or Iboga, you're fighting from far and Iboga went to the enemy. Once you use that, if you call your bit to you, or if you break the distance so much, your bit will show the enemy your location. This is a bigger problem with Turtle, so let's say like that, I'm calling even Turtle to me, I'm not all the time or will have her right next to me, like that. I applied the projectile barrier so the projectile can't hit me or whatever. I can do that and she's coming, but guess what? I'm the only one who steals it. She will be showing everyone where I am, so pay attention to that, don't fall for that. If possible, keep your bit attacking or whatever, or simply ignore that problem if they can't exactly tell your location if you want your bit to be next to you later. So always keep in mind what you want to do. If you kept your bit on your enemy very far like that, it will take longer time to come to you unless you really broke the distance from it, so you would have access to your hunker down later. It's a bit delayed. This is a very high thing to keep in mind. It's a high level thing, but it is a good advice nonetheless. So pay attention if your stealth will land on your bit or not, or you will be calling to your enemy your own location. Now another thing I would like always to do is use Sharpen Stone of cooldown, as I explained, because I will always have it, it will always land, I don't need the condition cleanse from the start from it, and it will last for 30 seconds and cooldown of 30 seconds, so always use it almost off cooldown if possible. Now for Celestial Avatar itself, we explained in a way our best rotations, that we go immediately to skill 5, skill 2 and follow with skill 3, skill 4 and skill 2 again, and we leave. This is the most optimal rotation, going with the CC combo that we explained as a way to apply damage. However, depending on the situation, you will either land it this way or you won't. So usually I will always start with skill 5, but let's say I'm running away, I will not need skill 5 unless I wanted to trigger the stability, since I'm seeing a CC coming. So let's say I got tethered by Dragon Hunter Spear and my bit was on cooldown, the swap, so I can simply swap my bits and gain a stack of stability. So maybe I can enter, trigger the skill 5 for stability, they ball me and won't land and I leave. Or for a spellbreaker mid tether, for example. So stuff like that. Always react to the situation around you. Your enemy have stability, so why land in skill 3 on Celestial Avatar, especially if you didn't need the healing, so you can follow them with the chill from skill 4 if you entered and they trigger stability. So pay attention to how the fight go and react accordingly. Also, one of the greatest way to be stationary still on this build is having Hunker Down mixed with the healing trap for cleanses, regeneration, protection, and you can be healing a lot, especially while in Celestial Avatar, to even trigger blinds, more cover condition, slow and stuff like that. If your enemy is still hitting you in melee, they will eat all that. And one of the tricks I like to use if I'm really kiting a lot of people and I don't want to be caught, is I can actually enter Celestial Avatar, it have 1 second cooldown before you can leave it again. So let's say I'm trying to cleanse or whatever, I can be dodging and then immediately leave, so you can even spam your dodge if you can't survive, and change direction, so you would land the stealth while not being mobbed or CC'd or whatever, because you need to burn the 1 second cooldown inside Celestial Avatar before you can actually leave it. Now, how different classes fare against this build right now. So some classes became more difficult to kill and some classes became more difficult to survive. So for example, Necromancer in general, like Minionmancer, Rebirths and stuff like that, anyone that's not a Harbinger who can fight from distance, became much difficult to hold down. So Minionmancer was so easy to simply land skill 3, a balls of skill 5, every minion is rooted with an entire ancient seed, with all its damage, all its immobilized, you can create distance, they can't give you the condition back from the trait, that make them take condition from the player and give it back to you, they can't do anything. They all stuck, they all immobilized, and you can even follow with an entangle, they will all die. He can't even save the minions at this point. He's the only target and all his minions almost worthless. Right now we can do that. We can still use entangle, but we can't really do that with CC avatars. However, we can still immobilize them and daze them and blind them like that and land skill 5 if possible. With body slam from the turtle, she can CC all of them, so there is few tricks. Can even heal under them for immobilize to avoid them and create distance. That's why we say distance became the major thing. You always have to be moving more than you used to. And also for Reaper, you can, beside Minion Mancer, you can lock the Necromancer itself. So you can lock a Reaper down simply by triggering Ancient Seed on them immediately and stay far. Or their skills and melees, you can't do anything, and you keep just using your short bow. Or use Entangle like that and you keep using your short bow. So every time they break one of your immobilize, you use another immobilize and you keep using your short bow. If they eventually die. But right now, no, they will not only kill the roots like they used to, you don't have roots. You only have entangle, so they will be hunting you down much easier. So this, as an example, is a class that became more difficult to fight. Any class that was much easier to lock down, or any class that used minions or bit, became harder to kill. You were able to actually lock the clones down of a Mesmer, so they can't run to you and shatter. If you use a shatter skill, they will be stuck in place inside the roots that actually killing them. Right now that's not possible. Again, the only skill we have is entangle. So you would have to dodge, create distance, and know when to land skill 5. You'll be casting skill 5. I see a lot of druids do this mistake. Casting skill 5 like that against a Mesmer with all those clones right next to you and just coming from everywhere and simply shatter on you and you die. So you have to really pay attention against Mesmer because of that. However, we used to be able to trap the clones and avoid this whole thing most of the fight. Again, with the mech for a mechanist, we are able to lock it away, especially if it's a melee mech. That's even quite the problem. At least separate the mech from the mechanist itself. Even if you use shift signet, it have a longer cooldown than our root, so we can keep just separating them from each other. Even other rangers, we were able to lock their bits down, make it very difficult for them to use them reliably. The fact that we lost Ancient Seed, the idea we able to control the enemy's position doesn't exist anymore, which means that every enemy like that, a minion, a pet, anything. However, some other classes actually became not harder to kill, but actually harder to survive, because also again we can't lock them down this much. I would say one of the worst is maybe Holosmiths, Wellbenders. It's a class that can be very aggressive and avoid your damage on fight completely. The block on Holosmiths and also the ages and F3 with the amount of boons a Wellbender can do makes them quite difficult to survive. Also, even Catalyst, we were able to, besides the access to resistance or whatever, we were able to lock it a lot of time and creating distance. So if they're using hammer was quite the problem, creating even more distance from them and keep just making them follow on us like that. So, but Catalyst, for example, is a class that's a little bit nerfed now, so that's a balance-wise thing. But from design perspective, those are classes that became quite harder to survive. Also Thieves. So we used to have this trick that if you immobilize a thief or create an Ancient Seed or a root, any class that board, if it board to you, if it board on the root, will trigger the immobilize again. The root will persist for 5 immobilizes, 5 bolzes, and if it is still alive, it will still land. So the problem with thieves that they can board out. So a sword thief, for example, will board on you and out, on you and out. So let's say you rooted them because if you CC them or trigger Ancient Seed. We still have the root to do that. You stay on your root the same way I'm standing like that, and if they board on you again, the root will clip them, triggers immobilize and bleed again. So that was a very smart idea to use against thieves that also went away. Was only the way to defend ourselves again is more movement and more active defenses like Celestial Avatar with daze, from entering as a blind, stealthing, using the hunker down from turtle, and even move more makes them burn cooldowns to hunt you down. So that also another class became a bit difficult to survive. I will be releasing a video explaining this idea of movement, commentary on it. A very good fight that I had to actually explain on it. And you will find the link in the description once I release it. if you're coming from it or in it, you will have both the links everywhere, so you can see it in action, what I mean by movement, and how analyze the fight in order to learn this as best as you can possibly. If you have any other questions, put them in the comments. So don't forget to like, sub, and share if anyone interested, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.